The last time Song Wang threw me out of his car, I knew then that it was over between us. I wasn't as heartbroken as I'd imagined I'd be. In fact, I felt a sense of relief. I accepted the marriage of convenience my family had arranged, and prepared to go to Germany with him to study, on Song Wang's birthday. His friends teased, "I wonder what Xinyan got for Brother Wang. What's there to guess? That piece of land Brother Wang had his eye on recently, Xinyan is sure to hand it over to him without a second thought." But the party ended, and I never showed up. He had no idea I had actually gone to Germany. He was truly being abandoned. On Friday morning, I received a message from Song Wang. "Come back to the old house tonight, 6 o'clock, I replied okay, and tossed my phone aside. When the time came, I went downstairs right on schedule. Song Wang's Bentley was parked right at the entrance, with his driver, Uncle Wang, standing beside it. As I came out, Uncle Wang opened the passenger door for me. I nodded with a smile and stepped inside. As expected, I saw Song Wang and Baiji sitting in the back seat. The two of them were chatting and laughing, seemingly oblivious to my presence. I was content to enjoy the peace, leaning back in my chair with my eyes closed. After a while, Baiji seemed to finally notice there was someone else in the passenger seat. Her voice was soft. "Sister Xinyan, I'm sorry. Did I disturb you?" In the past, I would have definitely snapped back. "What do you mean? You know you're bothering me, so why don't you shut up? What do you mean? Who do you think you are, talking to me like that?" But this time, I didn't. I shook my head and spoke calmly. "No, please continue." Baiji was stunned for a moment, then added, "It's all Wang's fault for talking to me. That's why I didn't see Sister Xinyan. You're not mad at me, are you?" "Sister Xinyan." As she spoke, Baiji stuck out her tongue playfully and immediately clung to Song Wang's arm. "Wang, hurry and put in a good word for me with Sister. It's Aiji's first time meeting Grandpa today. We can't let him get upset. Don't be scared, Aiji." Song Wang spoke with a tone of utter adoration, then planted a comforting kiss on her cheek. But when he turned his gaze to me, his eyes were icy cold, carrying a hint of a warning. Xinyan wouldn't do that, would she? It wasn't the first time Song Wang had interrogated me because of Baiji, yet my heart still ached uncontrollably. In his heart, I had fallen so low. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. "Of course," I said, my voice dripping with disdain. "I wouldn't stoop so low, too. I must have said something wrong." Song Wang's entire demeanor shifted in an instant, the air around him turning icy and oppressive. His eyes narrowed slightly as he addressed me by my full name, his tone sharp. "Shen Xinyan. What exactly are you implying?" I straightened up, meeting his gaze in the rearview mirror. "I'm saying I wouldn't stoop to that, and I won't do it. Are we clear, young Master Song?" It was the first time I had ever addressed him like that. As the words hung in the air, Song Wang fell into a sudden silence. I have no intention of looking at him again. As my gaze hastily swept past his eyes, the memories of those first few years suddenly came flooding back. I was in the bloom of youth when I first learned our elders had arranged a marriage pact between him and me. The boy next door from my childhood had, in the blink of an eye, grown into a handsome and gentle young man. Those dark, expressive eyes held me completely spellbound. The gentle warmth he once possessed had faded, and the sharp, aloof countenance of adulthood was now painfully conspicuous. But now, I genuinely have no desire to force my way back into his world. In that brief moment of quiet, Baiji suddenly broke into a sob. "It's all my fault. I've upset Sister Xinyan. I heard Wang say he and you were going to the old house. I thought of how alone I am, so I asked him to take me along. It's all my mistake." She bit her lip, looking at Song Wang with a face full of grievance, a single tear clinging to the corner of her eye. "Please don't be angry, Sister. Aiji won't go." As she spoke, she tried to unfasten her seatbelt, but her hands fumbled in her tearful distress, and she couldn't undo it right away. Song Wang pulled the struggling Baiji into an embrace, holding her hands still and cradling her in his arms, comforting her for a long while. Finally, Baiji cried herself to exhaustion in his arms and fell asleep. When he looked up again, the tenderness on his face turned to coldness as he faced me. "We both know that a childhood betrothal arranged by the elders doesn't count for anything. You are nothing in Aji's eyes. Let me make this perfectly clear for the last time. I don't like you. The only person I have feelings for is Baiji. I know he likes her. It's such blatant favoritism. Is there anyone in this circle who doesn't know about it?" 3. recalling Song Wang's words. If it weren't for Grandpa liking you and insisting on seeing you, I would never have brought you along and upset Ji. Once again kicked out of the car, I actually felt a wave of relief. I realized I wasn't as heartbroken as I'd imagined. I felt a strange sense of relief. Suddenly, I remembered the day of my birthday. Back then, I was angry with Song Wang for a long time because he started dating Bai Ji. To cheer me up, he booked out the entire Peninsula Hotel to celebrate my birthday. He didn't arrive until the party was well underway, rushing in at the last minute. My friend, noticing my low spirits, tried to cheer me up by saying, "Young Master Song must have a surprise for you." Saving the best for last. Hearing that, I began to believe Song Wang had indeed prepared an exceptionally thoughtful gift for me. But then he opened the box. It dawned on me that this bracelet in front of me was actually a free gift that came with the expensive necklace Bai Ji wore around her neck. Before I could even get angry, Song Wang beside me answered his phone. The voice on the other end of the call sounded like Bai Ji. "Wang, did you not close the door properly when you left just now? I think I heard something in the living room, and I'm here all alone." Bai Ji's voice still carried a slight tremble, like a kitten's playful whine, and it instantly made my hair stand on end. Song Wang, however, was completely charmed by this. He chuckled softly. "Be good, I'm celebrating a friend's birthday, don't make a fuss." The moment the words left his mouth, a startled cry was heard, followed by a sudden, inexplicable clattering and crashing sound. The smile faded from Song Wang's face as he turned to look at me. "Jinyan, you stay and keep having fun with your friends, I'm going back to check on Bai Ji." With that, before I could even open my mouth to ask him to stay, he hurriedly disappeared into the crowd. I don't know what came over me then, but I just took off after Song Wang. But all I managed to catch was the sight of a car speeding away into the distance. After that, I crouched alone by the roadside for a long, long time. So long that the sky began to rain, so long that the black night began to pale with the first light. I suddenly slumped to the ground, my legs numb and aching. I finally understand. A secret crush is always a one-person war zone. The boy who once made my heart flutter in my youth, his figure finally faded away in this moment. For Shen Jinyan. I looked up and saw a pair of long legs walking towards me. My gaze traveled upward and landed on the man's pitilessly handsome face. He's way more handsome in person than in the photos. Actually, a few months ago, when my father asked if I still wanted to go through with the arranged marriage to Song Wang, I said no. His relationship with Bai Ji is more serious than any of his past romances. I have to admit, I lost. Perhaps I was never truly in the game, to Song Wang. I was just the subject of a childhood betrothal joke, but because Grandpa Song once saved my life, he was very fond of me and wanted me to marry his grandson. My family still doesn't know how to broach the subject with the old man. It was 3 days ago, Dad pulled out a photo and asked me what I thought. He's just my type. Totally handsome. Dad laughed heartily and said that young man from the Cheng family was quite a catch, and that I should get to know him. Back then, I had no idea that the Cheng boy my father mentioned was actually the young master of the prestigious Cheng family from Jingbei. I wasn't sure you'd actually come. After all, my so-called childhood sweetheart of over a decade had just kicked me out of his car, whereas Cheng Yang was merely a stranger, a marriage of convenience partner. Shen Jinyan, you are worthy. Don't sell yourself short. The man's gaze was far too sincere. If I didn't know we had never met before, I might have thought he liked me. I smiled, opened the car door, and got in. Just as I reached for the seatbelt, his scent suddenly filled my senses. I nearly forgot to breathe. I watched his slender fingers pull out the seatbelt, his long arm seeming to encircle me. Suddenly, my heart began to pound. I didn't know where to look. As the car started, Cheng Yang's gentle voice filled the air. "Miss Shen, you probably haven't had dinner yet. Would I have the honor of inviting Jinyan to dine with me?" Honestly, I don't usually have meals with someone I've only met once, but this time, I said, "All right, 5. After that day, Song Wang and I never spoke again. Bai Ji started posting frequent updates about her relationship with Song Wang on Douyin. It started with just a glimpse of Song Wang's hand, then half a shoulder, followed by his profile. Finally, Song Wang revealed his full face, kissing her to make their relationship official. This video quickly went viral. Some netizens have questioned Song Wang's identity. In response, Bai Ji went live and said that when Song Wang's birthday comes around, She'll stream a meet and greet with the man himself for the fans. Baiji also mentioned that Song Wang plans to take her to Iceland to see the Northern Lights, her during the live stream. I'm completely enveloped in love, utterly blissful. After my girlfriends in our circle found out, they asked me, Jinyan, aren't you and young Master Song betrothed since childhood? A childhood betrothal? Don't even mention it. I opened the chat window and sent a voice message. No way, Song Wang and I are just childhood friends. That's all. Let me tell you a secret, he's already taken Baiji to meet his parents. Don't go spreading that around. Okay, at this point, my friend caught my drift. We tacitly dropped the subject, chatted about other things for a bit, and then ended the conversation. Honestly, I haven't been going out of my way to keep tabs on Song Wang these past few days. I just scrolled through short videos in my downtime while organizing files, and naturally came across the trending topics. I had once imagined what I would do if Song Wang proposed to Baiji, but now, seeing all this, I'm left with nothing but a sigh. It's not so bad, nothing is unbearable, and life goes on. A notification chime sounded. I picked up my phone from the table and saw a message from my arranged marriage partner. A smile crept onto my face as my fingers tapped across the keyboard. I'm all set, okay, see you tomorrow, 6. The next day, Cheng Yang accompanied me to the university to handle the paperwork for my study abroad application. As we walked across campus together, we felt like a couple who had just started dating. I told him a few things about school life, and he listened, chiming in with a comment or two. When something funny came up, we'd laugh together until we were in stitches. Being with Cheng Yang, I felt a sense of ease I hadn't known in a long time. I need to go back to the dorm to pack a few things. Do you want to head back first? The moment I said it, I regretted it, but I was too embarrassed to ask him to wait for me. Cheng Yang just smiled and ruffled my hair. It's fine, he said. Go get ready. I'll wait for you downstairs. My heart started racing again, blushing. I ran into the building. As I climbed the stairs, my hand unconsciously went to the spot where his hand had been. I suddenly let out a little laugh. I didn't have much in the dorm room, so I grabbed a bag and headed out before long. Thanks for waiting. Let's go my treat for some spicy hot pot at the back gate of the school. Sure. Cheng Yang smoothly took the bag from my hand. I only caught up after he had already started walking. I ended up running right into Suzuki, who was just about to walk his girlfriend back to her dorm. I was fairly familiar with Suzuki. He was one of Song Wang's many close friends. He always teased me for following Song Wang around like a little busybody. At that moment, his gaze settled on me and Cheng Yang, and he spoke with a hint of curiosity in his voice. Jinyan, who is this? My arranged marriage with Cheng Yang hasn't been made public yet. To avoid unnecessary complications, I put on a shy smile and said, this is the errand boy I hired. Anyone with eyes could see right through my lie. Though I had no idea what Suzuki was thinking, he looked at me with a furrowed brow, his tone utterly serious. Jinyan, it's good that you've come to understand it on your own. 7. After much deliberation, Suzuki finally made the call to Song Wang. Having been brothers with Song Wang for over a decade, he had watched Shen Jinyan appear by his side. Song Wang always complained about the girl from the arranged marriage, but he never once objected to Shen Jinyan's presence. He was convinced Song Wang had feelings for Shen Jinyan, but was just being stubborn about it. As an outsider, he could see the situation a bit more clearly. Well, it looked like he'd have to step in. If this gets out of hand, a lot of people are going to regret it. Hey, are you busy? How have things been with Jinyan lately? Before Suzuki could even get a word out, Song Wang cut him off. You've got a lot of free time lately. Huh, did that girl Jinyan rope you into being her messenger? Song Wang knew right away that the reason Shen Jinyan hadn't contacted him recently was because she was angry with him. She resented him for devoting all his attention to Baiji. But this time, Shen Jinyan really stepped up her game. She actually managed to hold out this long without bothering him. But a little girl is still a little girl. See, she's using her head now. She's learned to find herself an advocate. No, that's not it. It was me. I saw Jinyan with a boy today. Song Wang let out a scoff and spoke with utter nonchalance. Enough. Do you really think I don't know Shen Jinyan? She only has eyes for me. What boy? Have you been playing messenger so long you've started making up stories with her? You have time to play games with a little girl. I don't. Tell her this. If she uses this kind of trick to get my attention again, It won't be just 2 weeks of the silent treatment." At this point, he let out another cold laugh. "Seems I've been spoiling her too much. That's enough. I have to discuss the birthday party with Baiji later. Don't call me again about Jinyan." Suzuki ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Why was this guy being so difficult to talk to today? 8. On Song Wang's birthday, Cheng Yang and I were already on a plane bound for Germany. I hadn't told anyone else about studying abroad in Germany, and there was no need for the school administration to inform Song Wang either. After all, Song Wang and Baiji were deeply in love, and no one wanted to provoke him by bringing it up. That morning, I stepped out wearing a wool coat. Cheng Yang's driver spotted me and hurried over, taking the suitcase from my hand. When the car door opened, Cheng Yang was sitting in the back seat dressed in casual clothes. Holding an exquisite lunchbox in his arms, he smiled when he saw me. "Jinyan, come on in. I brought your favorite breakfast." The man had delicate features, with his eyelashes drooping like an adorable puppy. It was kind of cute. It suddenly struck me that Song Wang used to be just as considerate with me. But now, I shook my head, stepped into the car, and unceremoniously took the lunchbox from his arms. Looking at the man who seemed to be waiting for praise, I smiled, my eyes curving into crescents. "Thank you for the breakfast, young Master Cheng." In the dim light of dawn, the black luxury car sped away into the twilight. In the first-class cabin, I followed behind Cheng Yang, and my gaze inadvertently swept over his backside. Seriously, do all guys have such a firm, perky butt? Also, his legs are really long. For some reason, my mind was suddenly flooded with dirty thoughts, lost in my own wandering thoughts. I tripped over my own feet and landed right in his lap. When our eyes met, I felt inexplicably awkward, even though our families had already arranged the marriage, making us officially engaged. But we're still not that close, after all, even if I get a good vibe from this person. Even if they look like a big puppy when they glance down. But it really does feel like I'm throwing myself at them. Geez, is there really no one who'll let me star in a couple of TV episodes? I think I'm really capable. Even though I've been chasing after Song Wang for years, I genuinely don't want Cheng Yang to think I'm a frivolous person. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, he and I will spend the rest of our lives together. Even if we can't love each other, I hope we can at least respect one another in the future. I really wanted to make a good impression on him, so I quickly got out of his embrace and said apologetically, "I'm not usually like this, really." 9. Cheng Yang cleared his throat awkwardly into his fist. "So, it's a long journey. Would you like to rest for a while?" I nodded and took my seat, then busied myself with looking for a blanket. "Seriously, who booked a double bed?" The person beside me seemed to chuckle softly. Then, I saw a pair of large, well-defined hands draping the blanket over me. I couldn't meet his eyes, stammering out, thank you." To avoid the awkwardness, I simply closed my eyes and pretended to doze off. I woke up partway through to have a meal, then went right back to sleep. When I woke again, I realized I had been sleeping while leaning against Cheng Yang. The moment I opened my eyes, there was a handsome face. Right in my line of sight was a sexy Adam's apple. The man's chiseled jawline, a straight and well-defined nose, and closed eyes. Oh my god, things are moving way too fast. Also, my neck feels a bit sore. I reached out and touched the man's thin eyelids, inadvertently disturbing his sleep. Cheng Yang opened his eyes, looking at me with a dazed gaze. I really didn't know how to begin. He swore up and down that he doesn't usually act like that, and yet he got caught red-handed not long after. I'm mortified. It wasn't as awkward as I'd expected. Cheng Yang seemed half asleep, just squinting his eyes to adjust the blanket before wrapping his arms around me and dozing off again. Actually, before boarding the plane, I had received a call from Baiji. I didn't really want to answer it, but I pressed the accept button anyway. "Shinjinyan, you're not coming to a Wang's birthday party, are you? A girl really shouldn't be so shameless, don't you think? If someone doesn't want us around, we shouldn't cling to them like a stubborn plaster, right?" I used to get so angry whenever Baiji said things like that to me. Then, in front of Song Wang, she'd put on that sweet, manipulative act, making him dislike me more and more. But this time, I hit record the moment I answered the call. He chuckled softly. "Who says I'm not going? Just you wait." 10. As the party began, Baiji grew increasingly anxious and restless. She had promised her fans that when Song Wang's birthday came, She would go live so they could finally see him, but the thought of Shen Jinyan coming. If Shen Jinyan brought up her childhood engagement to Song Wang during the livestream, she'd want to slap herself. She never should have made that call. Her intention was to embarrass Shen Jinyan and make her not want to come. Who would have thought it would backfire? She bit her lip, her face clouded with worry. Song Wang also noticed Baiji was in low spirits and asked gently, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Baiji forced a smile, the corners of her mouth lifting slightly. "It's nothing, it's just, I told my fans I'd do a live stream for your birthday, but now I'm thinking it might not be appropriate." Song Wang put his arm around her shoulder and gave it a reassuring pat. "It is a bit awkward, but I can make a quick appearance later during your live stream. Come on, cheer up, there are so many people here." Baiji looked up at Song Wang, then lowered her head again. "Wang, the truth is, I'm scared. If Sister Jinyan mentions your childhood betrothal online, what am I supposed to do? Why are you bringing this up too?" Song Wang's face suddenly hardened. He hated nothing more than when people mentioned his childhood betrothal to Shen Jinyan, but seeing the person before him with eyes brimming with tears, his heart softened instantly. "Alright, I'll handle this. I promise no one will mention this online, no one will hurt you." As soon as he finished speaking, Baiji's face visibly lit up with joy. He watched as Baiji's face broke into a radiant smile the moment she heard his words. Song Wang couldn't help but smile too. It was precisely Baiji's simple, uncomplicated nature that he adored. The lack of straightforwardness was giving him a headache. With Song Wang's agreement, Baiji's mood genuinely lifted. She nestled affectionately into Song Wang's arms and planted a soft kiss. She thought to herself that even if Shen Jinyan showed up now, she wouldn't be afraid. Song Wang always had her back. The initial anxiety and unease gradually faded away. Baiji looked up to hear Song Wang chuckle softly. "Look at you, you've cried your face into a little mess." She stamped her foot in a coquettish manner. "You're so mean, I'll go touch up my makeup. Wait for me." 11. After Baiji left, Song Wang and his buddies started chatting. As the conversation went on, "Someone I'm not sure who brought me up. That's strange. Did any of you see Jinyan tonight?" At this point, everyone realized that none of them had actually seen me all evening. "No way, Jinyan didn't come tonight. No way, whenever our group has a gathering, Jinyan is always the first one here." The guy sitting next to Song Wang nudged his shoulder, winking mischievously. "Have you been too public with your new girlfriend lately? Maybe Jinyan's upset with you." Song Wang shot him a glance. "Watch your mouth. Can't even this drink shut you up?" He said the words. But the wine at his lips remained, unswallowed. Shen Jinyan had been acting a bit strange lately. Apart from that one time she got Suzuki to plead her case, she hadn't argued with him since. But wasn't this exactly what he wanted? At that thought, he shook his head, downed the wine at his lips, and let out a soft, derisive snort. He simply didn't believe Shen Jinyan could keep her composure like that. After all these years, he knew her far too well. Any minute now, she'd surely come bearing his most coveted prize, just to win his favor. Song Wang set down his wine glass, crossed his arms, and leaned back, his voice dripping with amusement. "If she shows up later, don't let her in just yet." Everyone understood this was Song Wang's petty punishment for Shen Jinyan's tardiness. Someone then teased, "I wonder what little sister Jinyan has prepared as a gift for brother Wang. What's there to guess? That piece of land brother Wang had his eye on recently. Little sister Jinyan is sure to hand it over to him without a fuss." In the past, whenever Song Wang took a fancy to something, he only had to mention it in passing. "I would move heaven and earth to get it into his hands." This time, Song Wang was certain that Shen Jinyan would deliver that piece of land to him in the same way. 12. But even as the party passed its halfway point, the moment the clock struck midnight, marking Song Wang's birthday, I still hadn't arrived. He furrowed his brow, his expression clearly troubled. Suzuki, sensing Song Wang's preoccupation, leaned in and whispered tentatively, "Should I give Jinyan a call? Maybe she's stuck in traffic." Song Wang didn't say a word, but he didn't refuse either. Suzuki stood up and immediately placed a voice call. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Cheng Yang and I arrived in an unfamiliar land. Lying in the man's large bed, I finally felt at ease. Even with a bed to sleep in throughout the flight, I never felt the grounded sense of security that comes with being on solid land. In that hazy state between sleep and wakefulness, I was jolted awake by the sound of a WeChat call. Xinyan, why aren't you here yet? Rubbing my throbbing head. I was momentarily confused. What? Suzuki covered his mouth, lowering his voice. It's Wang Ji's birthday today. What's your deal? Hurry up and get here. We're about to cut the cake. You and Wang Ji always cut it together every year. If you don't show up soon, the little missus is going to do it. Suzuki watched Bai Ji, eagerly holding the knife, and kept muttering on. I rolled over and let out a sigh. I'm not going. Tell Brother Song for me. Just wish him a happy birthday for me. I had no idea. By the time I said those words, the person on the other end of the phone had already switched to Song Wang. He listened as I called him Brother Song in front of Suzuki. It was an unfamiliar form of address, one I had never used before. A sudden wave of discomfort washed over him. I used to cling to him all the time, yet now I wasn't even coming to his birthday. He admitted it. He was genuinely a bit hurt by the way I addressed him. Perhaps deep down, he didn't want there to be such distance between us. 13. Xinyan, it's better to say your well wishes to my face, don't you think? Hearing Song Wang's voice didn't surprise me. After all, Suzuki wouldn't have taken the liberty to call and ask me without his permission. Of course, if you're doing all this because of Bai Ji, I can only say you're wasting your time. I know you're hiding somewhere watching us. Stop messing around and come out. I suddenly laughed. Brother Song, think whatever you want. Just don't call me anymore. With that, I hung up. To be honest, these past couple of days with Cheng Yang, I haven't thought of Song Wang at all, not even for a second. I stopped thinking about it. After a hot shower, I went downstairs. Cheng Yang was sitting on the sofa reading a book. He saw me come down. He put down the book, took off his glasses, and rubbed his eyes. You're finally awake. The butler booked a restaurant. I hear it's quite good. I nodded. Then I'll go change. Cheng Yang grabbed my wrist, pleading pitifully. Have a heart, will you? I'm starving. Can we just skip changing? Please, you look absolutely stunning in that outfit. You really do. I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of him. I then gestured for him to go ahead. We arrived at the chosen restaurant shortly, and the ambience was just as lovely as expected. Even though Cheng Yang was so hungry he was clutching his stomach, he still pulled out the chair for me like a true gentleman. That made me look at him a second time. I never imagined the young master of the Cheng family could be so considerate. Even Song Wang in his prime couldn't have matched that. In other words, even if I were that hungry, I probably still wouldn't think to be considerate of others. My fondness for Cheng Yang grew a little more. 14. My first meal abroad with Cheng Yang was absolutely perfect. After dinner, he asked me to go for a walk. He called it building rapport. We strolled the foreign streets, making idle conversation. Snow began to fall, gradually dusting the streets with white. The number of pedestrians on the road dwindled. Yet, Cheng Yang and I kept walking, as if we were the only two souls left between heaven and earth. In that moment, a thought struck me. It wouldn't be so bad to just keep walking like this. I couldn't tell who reached for whose hand first. When our fingers finally intertwined, we shared a knowing smile. He was wearing a black overcoat. A dusting of snow settled on his dark hair. He blinked, and his lashes lifted a few half-melted flakes. He looks like a boy straight out of a manga. I stood on tiptoe to brush the snowflakes from his bangs, unaware that a girl nearby had captured the moment. Wow, so romantic. Hold still, let me get another shot. I never expected to run into a friend here. Cheng Yang and I went along with it, following her instructions to strike a pose. Finally, she said she wanted to take another photo of us with our own phone. Cheng Yang simply handed his phone over to her. The girl didn't try to snatch the phone. After taking the photo, she handed the phone back to Cheng Yang. Finally, we waved goodbye. I raised an eyebrow. You trust her that much? What if she just ran off with your phone? Cheng Yang didn't answer. He just smiled and pulled me into his arms. I leaned against his chest, listening to the sound of his heartbeat, and in that moment, I suddenly felt completely at peace. After 5 minutes of romance, Cheng Yang took out his phone and did something, though I wasn't sure what. The next moment, a sleek black luxury car pulled up beside us. I pointed at the 5 cars not far away and looked up at him. Is this the answer? 15. After returning to the manor, Cheng Yang and I warmed ourselves by the fireplace. He suddenly took my hand and said, "Should we make it official? He and I have arrived in Germany. The news of the marriage alliance between the Shun and Cheng families will be announced soon." Thinking of this, I nodded. How about we use that photo the girl took for us? The photo that girl took is really good. I asked Cheng Yang to send it to me. When I unlocked my phone, a notification showed someone had sent me a video. I ignored it and posted a moment on WeChat Moments with Cheng Yang. Only after posting did I casually open that video. On the screen, Song Wang held Bai Ji's hand as they cut the cake together. He smiled tenderly. Ji, let's do this together. Afterwards, Bai Ji presented the gift she had prepared for Song Wang. It was a wristwatch, nothing fancy. Though it was beneath Song Wang's status, he took it and put it on anyway. He even showed it off to everyone present. The crowd, playing along, promptly began to shower him with compliments. Sister-in-law has such great taste. Look how much Brother Wang adores it. Brother Wang is a lucky man. Bai Ji smiled shyly and hid her face in Song Wang's embrace. The scene ends here, at this moment. My heart is as calm as still water. With a soft chuckle, I turned off my phone and nestled gently into Cheng Yang's arms. There's a bit of a time difference between us and back home. So, by the time our mutual friend saw it, the gathering was just about to end. Somehow, the photo of me and Cheng Yang ended up being shared in Song Wang's guys group chat. While they were passing the photo around, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Whoa, that's wild. Is that really Jinyan in the picture?" It's from Jinyan's own WeChat Moments. It's gotta be real. Does anyone know this guy? He and Jinyan look like a pretty good match. Sure, keep it down tilde. 16. Song Wang was currently kissing Bai Ji, who was sitting on his lap. Suddenly, he kicked over the table in front of him. He leaned forward, hands on his knees, his voice icy. "What were you all talking about that was so amusing?" "Nothing, nothing." The one who had earlier told them to keep it down hurriedly turned off his phone screen and stuffed it into his pocket. Hearing Song Wang call his name, Suzuki realized he was genuinely furious and hurriedly fished his phone from his pocket, handing it over. He even unlocked it for him. The moment Song Wang got the phone, his eyes landed on a photo of me and Cheng Yang kissing on a foreign street. "Shenjinyan, you've really made something of yourself." Song Wang spat out the words one by one, then let out a derisive snort. The veins on his right arm, which was wrapped around Bai Ji, bulged. Wang, you're hurting me." Bai Ji looked at the furious Song Wang, then playfully and gently pounded his chest with her little fists, but she was immediately thrown to the ground. With tears welling in her eyes and her hand covering her mouth, Bai Ji wore an expression of utter disbelief. Song Wang, who had always doted on her so much, had actually thrown her to the floor. "Why are you taking your anger at Sister Jinyan out on me?" The private room fell deathly quiet. The crowd, which had been lively just moments before, fell into a silence and then quietly filed out. Bai Ji was left alone, facing Song Wang with tear-filled eyes. Song Wang showed no intention of offering comfort or an explanation. Biting her lip, she got up, opened the door, and left, glancing back repeatedly with every step. That night, Song Wang sat alone in the private room. He lit one cigarette after another, then called Suzuki through the haze of smoke. "Is it him?" Suzuki was taken aback for a moment, then murmured, "Yeah." Song Wang promptly hung up the phone. 17. Later, Song Wang found out that Cheng Yang and I had gone to Germany. The childhood marriage arrangement between him and me was also called off after my father paid a visit to Grandpa Song for a serious talk. The shackles that had weighed on him since adulthood vanished completely in that moment. Yet, he didn't feel a shred of happiness. He wanted to see me. He wanted to ask me in person if it was my idea to call off the arranged marriage. So, he came here. I never expected Song Wang to actually come looking for me. That day, Cheng Yang and I walked out of school hand in hand. He was standing right there, under the tree across the street, dressed in a brown coat and a black scarf. He looked just as handsome as ever. He called out to me, "Jinyan." I paused for a moment, then took Cheng Yang's hand and walked over. "They told me you had come to Germany." I didn't believe it. Grandfather said the childhood betrothal is void. How can it be void, Jinyan? As Song Wang spoke and tried to step forward, Cheng Yang shifted sideways to block his path. I leaned out from the side, my tone more serious than ever before. "Brother Song, this is my fiancé, Cheng Yang. Cheng Yang. Say hello." The man standing in front of me rubbed his nose and spoke quite naturally. "Brother-in-law." Song Wang wore an expression of utter disbelief, as if the sky were about to fall. After a long silence, he said, "Jinyan, I'll break up with Bai Ji as soon as we get back. Please don't joke about this with me, okay? Sensing that Cheng Yang seemed a bit upset, I secretly gave his little finger a gentle squeeze. Brother Song, I know I've caused you a lot of trouble these past few years. My so-called crush only existed because of our arranged marriage promise. I mistook that for real feelings for you. Now that I've found the person I truly love, I wish you and Miss Baiji all the happiness. After saying that, Cheng Yang and I left. I could feel an intense gaze fixed on my back, but I knew I wouldn't look back. 18. After returning to China, Song Wang would often get drunk late at night. When Baiji came to see him, he shoved her away. Get away from me. Don't touch me. I'm breaking up with you. Dazed and without holding back his strength, he pushed Baiji down the stairs. Then, her white dress turned red. At the hospital, the doctor told them they had lost the baby. Baiji emerged from the operating room, her face deathly pale. Later, after she woke up, Song Wang still told her he wanted to break up. Baiji, don't look for me anymore, let's part on good terms. Baiji's eyes welled up with tears. She grabbed his wrist and sobbed. Did I do something wrong? Why are you leaving me? No, then why? No reason. Baiji, I'll give you some money. If you ever need anything in the future, come find me. I'll help you. Baiji looked up, her eyes rimmed red like a pitiful kitten. Song Wang looked at her. It suddenly occurred to him that he had never been so cold and harsh with her, not like with Shen Jinyan. He had lost count of all the cold shoulders he had given Shen Jinyan. He still remembered the first time he abandoned her for Baiji. Her eyes were brimming with tears. She gazed at him with profound sorrow, as fragile as a kite. Song Wang thought he was utterly annoyed at the time, but in truth, those sorrowful looks were seared deeply into his heart. For the last time, he abandoned Shen Jinyan once more. The light of her former devotion for him was gone from her eyes. 19. The year she returned home. I heard from my girlfriends about the situation between Song Wang and Baiji. It turns out Baiji didn't agree to the one-sided breakup. She finally managed to land a rich catch like Song Wang, and she's refusing to let go no matter what, even though he left her a check for 5 million, unable to find him. Baiji began pouring out her sorrows on Douyin. She claimed she had a miscarriage and that Song Wang had abandoned her. She didn't even care when netizens started slamming him online. All she said was that the baby was gone and she had been betrayed. As she continued to cry, some netizens began to feel sympathy for her. Song Wang didn't think much of it at first, until the flood of press releases appeared. Only then did he realize he had underestimated Baiji. Coincidentally, someone sent him a package at that very moment. When it was opened, dozens of photographs of Baiji with various men spilled out. Song Wang violently coughed up a mouthful of blood. It was for a woman like this that he had lost Shen Jinyan. After dialing the internal line, he instructed his assistant to investigate Baiji. Soon after, Baiji's file landed on his desk. What kind of a woman was she? Plastic surgery, hostessing, prostitution, gambling, being the other woman. He clutched his chest. That's disgusting. He took direct action. Posting Baiji's dirty laundry online, netizens started attacking her again. Baiji was driven off the internet by the backlash. At her wit's end, Song Wang appeared. After that, Baiji vanished without a trace. Rumors later spread within their circle that Song Wang had sent Baiji to northern Myanmar. 20. It was our third year in Germany. Cheng Yang and I. He proposed to me on a foreign street. It was a rare blue diamond he had won at an auction just days before. It was worth a fortune. I liked it a lot. So I said yes. With Cheng Yang, I never have to worry about him taking sides, because he's always on mine. He gives me all the security I need in this relationship, spoiling me like a child. Cheng Yang, why do you like me? I leaned into his embrace, gazing up at the stars. Cheng Yang gave a soft smile and kissed my lips. Jinyan, you are truly exceptional. I love you because you are worthy of love. It is my honor that you accept it. Well, look at you. 3 years abroad really sharpened your tongue, didn't it? It wasn't until later, when he was drunk, that he let it slip. That's when I found out. Turns out, a certain young man had fallen for me at first sight. It's just that our first meeting happened back in high school. He came out of the lab with a sudden bout of low blood sugar and just happened to run into me, who was on my way to find Song Wang. I took the chocolate from the box originally meant for Song Wang and gave half of it to him. From that moment on, the seed of affection was deeply planted. Later, seeing that Song Wang and I got along so well, He silently wished us well in his heart, but years later, when he heard news of me again, I was the one who had been hurt. He told himself, if Song Wang didn't cherish Shinjinyan, then he would. He asked his eldest brother to propose to the Shun family on his behalf. That day, Cheng Yang spent hours getting ready in front of the full-length mirror, but in the end, the meeting never happened. Fortunately, I later sent him a distress call. When we met again, he called out to me, Shinjinyan. That day, Cupid shot his golden arrow straight through my heart and Cheng Yang's. It was the first time my heart had ever stirred. Extra chapter, Song Wang. The year Song Wang turned 30, Shinjinyan and Cheng Yang got married. It was a union of two powerful families, a wedding of extravagant, legendary scale. As an old friend, he was among the invited guests. He watched Shinjinyan, clad in a priceless, handcrafted wedding gown, walk step by step towards Cheng Yang. He thought that after all these years, he had finally let go, but in this very moment, he realized with painful clarity that he would never be able to forget her. I can never forget the past I shared with Shinjinyan, but it was he himself who let her slip through his fingers. He threw back a drink and then left the wedding. He couldn't bear to watch Shinjinyan and Cheng Yang exchange rings. He couldn't bear to see the two of them kiss. He refused to admit he had lost his love forever. He thought back to those first few years. He and Shinjinyan were bound together by a childhood betrothal. Shinjinyan was always by his side, and deep down, he was actually quite happy about it. But how did things end up the way they did later on? He thought to himself. Perhaps it was because Shinjinyan was just too good to him. People can be their own worst enemies. The grass is always greener on the other side. He disliked the monotony of a predictable life. A future with Shinjinyan was one that could be seen clearly from the start. What glorious years those were for him. With the support of the Shun family, the Song family's rise was smooth sailing. Any project he wanted, all he had to do was mention it, and Shinjinyan would move heaven and earth to get it for him. Any piece of land he desired would be registered under his name by the very next day. If he wanted it, she was the only one who could provide it. She would give him anything he wanted. He was terrified of people calling him a freeloader. He treated Shinjinyan even worse because of it. As if that could prove something, after the childhood betrothal was called off, although Mr. Shun remembered the debt of gratitude for his father saving Jinyan's life and had offered him support. But things were ultimately not the same as before. He had fallen from his former status as the esteemed young master Song to being merely addressed as manager Song. He never saw Shinjinyan again. In the end, his whole life was an illusion. Story 2, Marvin and I were childhood sweethearts. I had a stepfather, and he had a stepmother. We grew up relying on each other. He said he liked wandering, so I accompanied him on his travels. I thought we would be together forever. Until I saw with my own eyes Marvin, shirtless, bending over to pick up another woman's underwear in that shabby rented room. I asked him why, but he didn't answer. He just told the woman to get dressed and leave. After a long time, he said that he wanted freedom, and I was the biggest obstacle to his freedom. The day he left, I gave him a kite. I said, I wish you freedom. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I had imagined many scenarios of my reunion with Marvin. What I least expected was that it would happen in such a situation. The hospital called me using Marvin's phone, saying that he had been in a car accident and asking if I could go to the hospital. That's when I learned that Marvin had somehow returned to this city. In this bustling metropolis, even the streets in the early morning were still full of traffic. I rushed to the hospital, inquired about Marvin's hospital bed number, and hurried over. It was a not too spacious single room. A woman with a good figure stood by the bed with her back to me, her tone coquettish. Marvin, I'm the first one to come and visit you. I'm good to you, aren't I? Yeah, you're the best to me. When I heard that familiar voice, I stood there blinking and retracted the hand that was about to push open the door. Marvin and I hadn't been in touch for a few years. When we broke up, it almost broke my heart. But time is always a good medicine to soothe the heart. Now, when I think of him again, I rarely feel emotional, but when I suddenly heard that familiar voice again, I realized that maybe I didn't stop loving him. It's just that the feelings were too heavy, and I forcibly sealed them away. I didn't dare to enter the ward. I asked the nurse for Marvin's hospital admission number and paid his hospitalization fee for him. After leaving the hospital, I parked the car by the roadside and smoked for a long time. I had been a good student and an obedient girl since I was a child. Smoking was the only bad habit I inherited from Marvin, and I learned it after breaking up with him. In recent years, the work pressure has been getting greater and greater, so my smoking addiction has also become stronger and stronger. After smoking half a pack of cigarettes, my mind was not cleared. Instead, I was choked by the last puff of smoke and coughed violently. How embarrassing. I leaned against the steering wheel and smiled bitterly. Logically speaking, I should have appeared in front of Marvin looking fresh and beautiful, and said casually, "Long time no see," but I didn't even dare to take a look at what he looked like now. I fled at the mere sound of his voice. Maybe I'm a bit pathetic. My favorite thing is to offer my sincere heart only to have it trampled on. I secretly went to see Marvin a few more times later and also asked his attending doctor about his condition. Marvin's ward was very lively. Whenever I went, there were always people by his bedside, chatting away, either men or women. This was also something I expected. Marvin had been popular since he was a child. Wherever he went, those people would quickly gather around him and form a circle with him at the center. He had always been the focus of attention. The last time I went to see the attending physician, the doctor rubbed his temples with a bit of a headache. Actually, the patient in bed 2 is not seriously injured at all, it's just a minor fracture and a mild concussion, and he's recovering well now. I know you all care about him, but could you please send a representative to ask about his condition? Otherwise, I have to repeat the same thing 5, 6, 7, or 8 times a day. Doesn't it also affect other patients' families from consulting about their conditions? I didn't dare to say that I wasn't actually a family member of the patient. I could only apologize repeatedly and back out of the doctor's office. Then I had a face-to-face encounter with Marvin, who was taking a walk in the corridor. There were 3 people with him. One was holding a drip bottle, one was supporting his arm, and the other was following slowly beside him. It was quite like he was being surrounded and adored like the moon by the stars. I even heard Marvin say in a very disgruntled tone, "I'm injured, not disabled. Could you please let go of me? I can walk by myself." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw me. I just hated that the corridor in the hospital was too spacious, making my panic and unease impossible to hide. I stood there in a daze for a while, and finally, I was the first to speak. "Long time no see. Marvin, who is this?" Marvin looked at me with a calm expression. "A fellow villager. You two look so affectionate. I thought she was your ex-girlfriend." Marvin and I had depended on each other for more than 20 years. I had worn his only down jacket, and he had worn my only scarf. We had shared a plate of fried rice with eggs and slept in the same bed. Now, we were just fellow villagers. I clenched my phone tightly and turned around to leave. Marvin stopped me. "Wait a moment." He asked me if I had paid his hospitalization fee. "I saw the call record with you on my phone. It was the hospital that called you, right?" Marvin said. "You're still using that bank card, right? I'll transfer the money to you directly." "No need," I refused. "If anyone should transfer money, it should be me transferring it to you." Marvin paused. "I feel quite embarrassed that I spent so much of your money back then. Give me a bank card number, and I'll pay you back." Upon hearing this, Marvin's friend laughed. "You're only thinking about paying it back after all these years. So insincere. Then how much interest are you going to pay?" Marvin glared at that person with a cold expression. "Don't pay attention to him," Marvin said. "There's no need to pay it back." I scratched my head and said, "It should be paid back." In the past, I had no psychological burden when using Marvin's money. When he bought things for me, I accepted them as a matter of course. At that time, I thought we were a family. His money was mine, and when I earned money in the future, it would naturally be his too. But since we had separated, the financial transactions should be settled clearly. Marvin didn't give me his bank card number, but I still went to the bank to get the transaction statement. The next day, I mustered up the courage and went to the hospital with the bank card. But in Marvin's ward, there was no one there, and the room was empty. In fact, I knew that Marvin definitely wouldn't accept the money. I just wanted to find an excuse to come and see him again. But he didn't leave me even the slightest chance. Once he noticed my presence, he disappeared without a trace again. Sometimes I couldn't help but wonder what exactly I had done wrong. I had never been hysterical or made a big scene with him. To what extent did he dislike me that he avoided me like the plague, compared to a woman who plays with people's hearts? Men actually hate the kind of love-obsessed person who endures everything and is like a piece of chewing gum that can't be shaken off and is disgusting when sticking around. In the bar, my friend drained the mixed drink in her glass in one gulp and poked my forehead with her finger. I'm talking about you, the love-obsessed one. Sometimes I really want to open up your brain and see what its structure is like. How can you be so infatuated with a man who is as bad as he is? And never change your mind. I held the wine glass and seriously refuted her. First, I'm not love-obsessed, except for Marvin. I've never loved any other man in my life. Second, Marvin is not a bad person. He's really nice. My friend rolled her eyes in disgust. Really? I thought you would be at least a little more sensible after all these years. I didn't expect that you haven't changed at all. There's no hope for you. I suggest just burying you alive. I smiled and didn't refute her anymore. Every one of my friends had scolded me for being irrational. I had also explained to every friend that I wasn't being irrational. I clearly knew what I was doing. I wasn't love-obsessed. Marvin had really treated me very well in the past. Every love-obsessed person says that. But look at what Marvin has done. He cheated, had an affair, and got together with another woman in the rented house you shared. He blocked your phone number. When you went to beg him to get back together and waited outside the bar for a whole week, he didn't even show up. You guys don't understand. Without Marvin, I wouldn't have been able to go to college, and I might not even be alive today. I downed most of the bottle of wine in one gulp. I had developed a better tolerance for alcohol over the years, but tonight, probably because I mixed red, white, and beer, I felt a bit dizzy. I leaned on the bar counter, grabbed my friend's arm, and pointed at the male models dancing in the middle of the dance floor. The tuition fees and living expenses for my 4 years in college were all earned by Marvin dancing night after night like this. At that time, he could earn 6,000 yuan a month. 500 yuan was for the rent, 500 yuan for living expenses, and the rest of the money was all spent on me. He actually got admitted to college, but my parents didn't want to pay for my education. Marvin said that since the college he got into wasn't very good anyway, he wouldn't go to school and would go to work to support me instead. After I graduated from college, my parents wanted me to get married and earn the betrothal gift. Marvin borrowed money from all his friends around him to finally gather enough for the betrothal gift. So I'm actually Marvin's wife. He gave the betrothal gift, and I'm supposed to marry him. The music was still loud. But my friend seemed to be drunk and lay beside me without saying anything more. I was silent for a long time and then said, "So, it's actually normal that Marvin wanted to leave, right? I've been such a burden to him for so long." My friend was unconscious from drinking. I drained the remaining half bottle of wine, scanned the code to pay the bill. When I stood up, my gaze accidentally swept across the bar's entrance, and my pupils instantly dilated. It was Marvin. He was wearing a low-key black hooded sweatshirt and a mask, but I recognized him at a glance. He didn't see me and walked straight towards a lively booth. Someone cleared the central position and let him sit down. I saw Marvin take off his mask and casually take the beer that someone handed to him. A young woman smiled and leaned close to Marvin, saying something to him. Marvin nodded indifferently and casually responded. I had never been jealous before. I was so certain that I thought nothing and no one could separate me and Marvin. I was well aware of Marvin's charm, yet I was also extremely confident in his loyalty to me. When did it start? The fact that Marvin no longer loved me. I still remember that after Marvin said he wanted to break up with me, he never went back to the rented house. I went to the bar where he worked to look for him, called each of his friends, and even went to their homes to ask if they knew where Marvin had gone. I sent him a lot of messages, wanting to ask him where exactly our relationship had gone wrong and if we could have a good talk. I said I would change anything that could be changed. I said I didn't mind if he had some fun with other girls and asked him not to be angry. Later, I was only worried about his safety. I said he didn't have to pay attention to me, as long as he replied to my message once to let me know that he was safe. In the end, I had no other choice. At 3 o'clock in the morning, outside the bar, I sat on the steps, feeling icy cold all over, holding my phone in my hands and typing out the message word by word with my stiff fingers. I agree to the breakup, please come home, and we can deal with the house. 10 minutes later, Marvin appeared beside me, so he had been there all along. He was standing not too far away, looking at me indifferently. At that moment, I felt as if I had never really known him. The house was rented by Marvin. He said he was leaving soon and had prepaid the rent for 3 months. I could either continue living there or discuss with the landlord about terminating the lease. He left very decisively. When he left, he just carried a black backpack, which contained his wallet and identification documents. He didn't take anything else. I accompanied him downstairs. I was still wearing the couple's pajamas that we bought together when we went to the wholesale market. I handed him a small kite pendant and smiled, saying, "I wish you freedom, Marvin. Do you feel free enough now?" Since I knew that Marvin would go to that bar, in the following days, I would go there and sit for a while every now and then. Actually, I knew very well that there was no possibility for me and Marvin anymore. Marvin was just like that. Once he made a decision, he never looked back. But I never met Marvin again. I wasn't sure if he was avoiding me, but even if he was, it wasn't too surprising. No matter who it is, being pestered by an ex-girlfriend they already find annoying probably wouldn't be very pleasant. I often sat in front of the bar counter. After coming and going several times, I got familiar with the bartender. As soon as I sat down, he would hand me a mixed drink. But tonight, just 2 minutes after I sat down, there was a sudden bang sound in my ear. I turned my head. A woman dressed in revealing clothes angrily put down the express box in her hand and said to the bartender angrily, "Give me a glass of vodka, miss. Who offended you this time? Who else could it be?" I bought a gift for Marvin and reminded him several times. It's been sitting in the courier station in his neighborhood for so long that it's almost moldy, and he still hasn't gone to pick it up. The woman stamped her foot in anger. "It's really expensive. I wouldn't even be willing to buy such an expensive watch for myself." My heart skipped a beat, and I secretly glanced at the order on the express box beside me. The address was written in great detail, down to the house number. Instead of pouring vodka, the bartender handed her a glass of sweet wine. I remember Marvin said that he doesn't accept gifts, right? It must be that it didn't hit the spot, the woman said, resting her chin in her hand and sighing mournfully. Sigh. When will I be able to win Marvin over? There are quite a few women who have the same idea as you. I can only say, good luck to you. I sat there and pretended to be curious as I asked, "Who are you talking about?" The bartender smiled and replied, "A really handsome guy." "How handsome is he?" "Extremely handsome." The bartender was about to say something more, but was stopped by a look from the woman. I smiled awkwardly and left after paying the bill sensibly. Then I immediately took a taxi to the address on the express box. My heart was beating fast, and my palms were even slightly sweating. I told myself in my heart that I was just going to pay back the money. This was the last time. This was the last time I would indulge myself. Half an hour later, I rang the doorbell of Marvin's house. There were faint footsteps coming from behind the door. I took a deep breath and tried my best to force a natural smile on my lips. The next second, the door opened. The woman had a pair of beautiful eyes, was wearing an apron, and holding a spoon. There was a sweet smile on her face. She looked at me in confusion. "Who are you looking for?" "Sorry, I think I've got the wrong place." My voice caught in my throat, and I couldn't say another word, because I saw behind the woman, Marvin, who had just opened the bedroom door and came out shirtless. It was really strange. I had witnessed Marvin cheating before, but I wasn't as sad as I was at this moment. Maybe it was because the atmosphere of their life together was too strong, as if they had been together for a long time. I clearly realized that there was already another woman by Marvin's side. It wasn't just a physical relationship. They would also, just like we used to, share a glass of water, the same bed, and watch the sunrise and sunset together. My appearance would only be a bother to him. If I really loved him and truly wanted the best for him, I should be sensible, generous, and put down the bank card openly and then leave. But the moment I opened my mouth, I found that I could hardly make a sound. I swallowed hard and handed out the bank card. "Hello, I'm Marvin's fellow villager. He lent me some money before, and I came here today specifically to pay it back." The woman turned her head and looked at Marvin. Marvin stood there. After a moment of silence, his gaze fell on me. "Come in and have a seat. Actually, I shouldn't have stayed." But Marvin took a cup to pour me water and then pulled out a chair for me. The woman opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but finally frowned. "Marvin, go and put on some clothes. Don't let your cold get worse." Marvin stood at the dining table looking at me. I could only lower my head and finally stepped through the door. Sorry for the intrusion. I tried very hard to restrain my gaze and didn't let myself look around randomly. afraid of seeing something that would make me even sadder. But there were still some scenes that I couldn't avoid after all. Marvin came out of the bedroom wearing a long-sleeved shirt and sat at the dining table with a low atmosphere around him. This was his typical state when he was sick. Looking at the way his lips were pursed, I guessed that he probably still had a slight fever. My fingertips twitched, and I restrained myself from clenching my hands into fists. The woman brought out a bowl of porridge from the kitchen. She carefully picked out the ginger shreds in it, peeled an egg, put the egg white on a plate, and crushed the egg yolk with a spoon and mixed it into the porridge. "Marvin, give it a try." Marvin doesn't eat ginger because he dislikes the strong ginger flavor. He doesn't eat the egg white because I like it. I just felt a sharp pain in my eyes, as if tears would well up in the next second. I quickly averted my gaze. How excessive. Was it on purpose, deliberately letting me stay and witness his intimacy with someone else? Marvin didn't touch the bowl of porridge. He just casually asked me, "How have you been recently?" His tone was just for simple reminiscence. I looked at the woman sitting beside him, eyeing me warily. I knew that if I revealed the slightest bit of my feelings for Marvin, an argument would be inevitable. I had nothing more to give Marvin, so I should save him some trouble. Thinking of this, I clenched my fists on my knees a little tighter. A sharp pain came from the palm of my hand, but I could put on a natural smile, even with a hint of shyness on my face. "Pretty good, I'm getting married soon." Upon hearing this, Marvin lifted his eyelids and stared at me. My figure was reflected in his eyes. A long time ago, his eyes only had my figure in them. I took a deep breath imperceptibly and exhaled slowly. "When the time comes, you two should come to the wedding banquet." Marvin wouldn't come, so I wasn't afraid of this lie being exposed. The hostility on the woman's face towards me finally disappeared, and her attention returned to Marvin. "Marvin, eat quickly, or it'll get cold." I held the cup, took a sip of water with restraint, and then politely proposed to leave. Marvin also stood up. "I'll see you out." "Marvin, you're still sick. Let me see her out." Marvin ignored her and just followed closely behind me. He was a bit too close. Crossing the safe distance between men and women, I could even smell the faint scent of soap on him. The sound of the door closing came from behind. I didn't look back and walked straight towards the elevator. Marvin's steps were unhurried, and the rhythm was still the same as before. My hand hanging by my side twitched, and I suddenly felt like smoking a cigarette. "It's good that you're getting married. You should have gotten married a long time ago." Marvin coughed, and his voice was a bit hoarse. "He treats you well, right?" Afraid that my voice would choke up if I spoke, I could only reply in a low voice, What about you?" After calming my breath a bit, I smiled and asked him, "Your relationship with her seems pretty good. Is it almost time for good news?" The elevator door ding opened, and I quickly stepped in and pressed the close button randomly, not even daring to listen to Marvin's answer. It was only when the elevator door was completely closed that I softly said, "Goodbye." This time, it was for real. Never see each other again. That night, I walked home. I walked for almost 3 hours, crying as I walked. When I got home, I was parched. I drank a large pot of water in big gulps, and then without removing my makeup or taking a shower, I buried myself in the quilt and wrapped myself up like a silkworm chrysalis, because I couldn't sleep soundly. I was in a drowsy state, half asleep and half awake, and I remembered a lot of things from the past. Marvin's biological father worked on a construction site, and his stepmother treated him badly, often not giving him anything to eat. When I cooked, I would secretly save a bowl for him. When I had my first period, it was Marvin who bought me sanitary pads. When I was just developing during puberty, my stepfather often peeked at me while I was taking a shower. Later, Marvin would stay at my house on the pretext of doing his homework and leave after I finished showering. When the first KFC opened in our county, Marvin ate steamed buns for a week, saved his living expenses, and took me there to eat. When knitting was popular in high school, I stayed up for 3 nights and knitted a black and white scarf for Marvin. He took it out and wore it every winter until we broke up, and it was left in that small rented room. When we were in college, we were in the same city, but my schoolwork was very heavy, and the place where Marvin worked was far from me. Due to financial constraints, we couldn't meet often, so we made many phone calls a day. Except on payday, Marvin would also transfer money to me every now and then. He said it was tips from customers. When my roommates learned that I had a boyfriend who worked in a bar, they all had strange expressions. They thought I was a well-behaved girl and had nothing to do with a bar guy. Moreover, since Marvin could get tips, it was obvious that he met a lot of people from various backgrounds, and there was a good chance that he might be unfaithful. But my trust in Marvin was almost blind, and I never doubted his character. In order to prepare a birthday gift for Marvin, I took a tutoring job without telling him, saved money for a long time, and bought him a very expensive down jacket. I gave Marvin a lot of things, most of which were related to keeping warm, probably because we were so poor when we were young. Winters were always especially hard to endure. It was really difficult back then, but maybe because I knew there was someone behind me, I never felt bitter. It's just a pity that we can never go back. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I completely lost my sleepiness, so I simply got up. I bought this house last year, paid the down payment, and spent a lot of effort decorating it. Little by little, I decorated it into the way I liked. I found a storage box and started packing things up. The water cup I bought for Marvin, put it away. The bowls and chopsticks, put them away. The towel and toothbrush, put them away. The clothes that I bought while shopping and thought would suit Marvin, put them away. The box was stuffed full, and I struggled to push it into the storage room. There were still 2 boxes there, storing the bits and pieces of me and Marvin in the rented house. I'm really pathetic, I said to myself. Fortunately, this is the last time I'll be like this. I stopped going to the bar, stopped opening the storage room, and even deliberately avoided the area around the community where Marvin lived. It was my friend's birthday, and I brought a bottle of wine to celebrate. As soon as I stepped into her house, she pulled me aside mysteriously. What do you think of that person? She nodded towards the living room with her chin. I looked around. The only stranger at the scene was a man wearing rimless glasses, with a gentle and scholarly air. I smiled and nodded. He's quite handsome. He's still single. My friend smiled and asked, "Are you interested?" I smiled and shook my head, afraid that she wouldn't give up. I looked at her seriously and said, "I really don't have that kind of intention now. Don't worry, when I want to get out of being single, I'll tell you the first time." My friend could only sigh helplessly. I drank a few more sips of wine during the meal. My friend put her arm around my shoulder and sighed. "Actually, when you and Marvin broke up, we were all glad for you. You have a great future and a bright life. It would be a pity if you really spent your whole life with Marvin in an ordinary way. But seeing you like this now, I actually feel mixed emotions." I took another sip of red wine and heard my friend say, "I've seen you happy. You're not bad now, but it's just that it's inevitable to feel some regret and pity." I smiled. "What's there to be sorry about? After you reunited with Marvin, did you ever think about getting back together with him?" "No. I've had many dreams about Marvin, good, bad, and indescribable. But after reuniting with him, I never thought about getting back together with him. The most extreme thing I did was to find a poor excuse to meet him. I love him, so I don't want to force him. It doesn't matter if we don't get back together. And it doesn't matter if he doesn't love me. It doesn't matter if I'm sad or heartbroken. As long as he's well, I'm well." I drained the red wine in my glass and poured myself a full glass again, afraid that I would drink too much. My friend forcefully took away the wine glass. "That's enough. That's about it for today. Don't drink too much. You still have to go to work tomorrow." I smiled and stood up. "I'll go wash my face." Actually, my mind was quite clear, but my cheeks were a bit hot, and I needed some cold water to cool down. "Xiaojing, there's a call for you." My friend picked up the phone I left in the living room and handed it to me. I glanced at the caller ID and picked up the phone in surprise. "Senior, I can't explain it to you in a few words. I sent you a location. Anyway, just come over quickly." He said this in a rather mysterious way. After hanging up the phone, I checked the message. The location was a certain district police station. My friend leaned over. "What's going on?" "I don't know. He didn't give any explanation, just told me to go over quickly." "Have you been in touch with your senior recently?" "No, we haven't been in touch for at least almost 2 years." But his tone sounded quite serious. Afraid that there was something wrong, I still took a taxi and rushed over. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw several familiar yet strange backs in the distance. Marvin and my senior were sitting on opposite sides of the police station hall, like the Chu River and Han border, not disturbing each other. "Karen, come here." Only then did I see the colorful marks on his face. Marvin heard the voice, sat still, but also looked up at me. I was just about to ask what had happened when I saw the broken corner of Marvin's mouth. What's going on with you? Did you get into a fight again? I ran over anxiously, not daring to reach out. I could only look him up and down futilely. Are you badly injured? Do you need to go to the hospital? Karen, please take a look at me. Who needs to go to the hospital more? My senior shouted in frustration. Are you too crazy? Upon hearing this, Marvin stood up instantly with an unfriendly expression. So, someone please explain to me what exactly happened. Actually, the course of the matter was very simple. My senior was walking hand in hand with his girlfriend when Marvin saw them. He thought my senior was my fiancé and that he had betrayed me. The two of them got into an argument and ended up in the police station. My senior was purely an innocent victim implicated by me. I acted as a peacemaker in the middle, said a lot of good words to my senior, and forced Marvin to apologize before signing the mediation agreement. After walking out of the police station, my senior touched his swollen face and hissed, "Forget it, who told me to owe you one? If you come at me like a mad dog again next time, I definitely won't let it go." Marvin just remained silent. I didn't quite understand what my senior meant. It dawned on me later. Right, how could they know each other? Marvin's work was very busy. Even with my closest roommate, he only met a few times. Theoretically, there was no possibility for him to meet my senior. But these things weren't important. After seeing my senior off, I took a taxi and was going to send Marvin home. But even though I opened the car door, Marvin stood there without moving. "What's wrong? Let's go." I turned around in confusion. "Karen, who is your fiancé?" I forced a smile. "You don't know him even if I tell you. If you tell me, I'll know him." Marvin's tone was very slow. "Did you meet him in the years since we separated?" His pupils stared straight at me. "Find a time and invite him out so we can all meet. Is that necessary?" "Yes, it is necessary." I thought for a moment, smiled apologetically at the driver, closed the car door, and then turned around to look at Marvin seriously. "Marvin, we've already broken up. You don't need to be responsible for my future happiness anymore." After a pause, I lowered my eyes and spoke in a soft voice. "You doing this will make me misunderstand that you still have feelings for me. I might not be able to control myself and keep pestering you again." Marvin looked at me in silence. "So, let's not meet then." I perked up and looked at him with a smile. "Just live your own life well. But if you get married, don't send me an invitation. I don't want to give you a red envelope." It's very difficult to suppress the love for Marvin. Feelings that can only be diluted by time and distance can't withstand a reunion and the slightest bit of care. "Actually, I still can't figure out when exactly you started not loving me." The fingertips hanging by my side involuntarily curled up again. I stared at Marvin intently. All changes in feelings have omens, like more arguments, the start of a Cold War. I think I know your emotions quite well, but it seems that one day, you suddenly changed. You were very determined and straightforward. You said we were breaking up and didn't leave me any room for negotiation. So, I have one last question to ask you now. A trace of embarrassment flashed in Marvin's eyes, and he turned his head away, not looking at me. "Have you found the freedom you wanted? If you have, can you return this to me?" I pointed at the kite charm hanging on Marvin's phone. Marvin's hands were shaking. It took him a while to take off the charm and hand it to me. "Thank you, this way, we're completely even." I smiled while holding the charm. "I won't send you home. I'm afraid if your girlfriend sees it, it'll cause a misunderstanding." "Karen," Marvin called out to me. "Does your fiancé really exist? Just assume he does, and don't worry about whether he'll hurt me." I shrugged nonchalantly. "There's no one who can hurt me more than you, so you can rest assured, I survived being abandoned by you. If I'm unfortunately abandoned again, I should be able to manage too." I didn't look at Marvin's expression anymore. After going home that day, I looked at the kite charm for a long time. This charm was bought in a hurry, and its quality wasn't very good. It had already started to chip, and the rope had also been changed in material and color. It wasn't the original one. I dialed my senior's phone number. From his vague words, piece by piece, I finally pieced together part of the truth of why Marvin and I broke up. My senior said that he had privately approached Marvin and shown him the videos of me participating in various competitions and parties at school. He thought Marvin wasn't good enough for me, or to be more precise, he thought that he and I were more suitable for each other than Marvin and I were. I admit that I was young and impulsive back then, and I didn't think things through when I spoke. My senior sighed. I chased you for a full 4 years, but you never even gave me a proper look. So I was a bit resentful. Later, when I heard that you and Marvin had broken up, I thought my chance had come." My senior smiled. "Karen, when will you be able to accept another man in your heart? What's wrong with me compared to Marvin?" "You're very good," I replied sincerely. "You're not worse than Marvin in any way. I do feel a bit sorry for ruining your happiness. I can tell that you still have feelings for Marvin now. As for Marvin's feelings for you, leaving aside other things, at least he has a strong sense of protectiveness towards you. But don't idealize the path you didn't take. People's hearts change easily. Since you started college, your life and Marvin's life have already diverged. You can only drift further and further apart, and you'll eventually not be on the same path." I hung up the phone. What does it mean to be on the same path? Do people with the same educational background, decent jobs, and similar social circles count as being on the same path? But after all these years, I've never thought that I'm on the same path as them. I threw the kite charm into the trash bin downstairs when I went to work the next day, but as soon as I got to the company gate, I regretted it. Sure enough, people shouldn't make any decisions when their minds aren't clear. I took 2 hours of personal leave and turned the car around to go back. The cleaning aunt hadn't come to collect the garbage yet. I rummaged through the trash bin thoroughly, but the kite charm had disappeared without a trace. I stood beside the trash bin in a daze for a while. Just as I was about to check the surveillance, I heard the ringtone of a mobile phone coming from behind me. The other person hung up quickly, but I turned my head even faster. Marvin had nowhere to hide. Meeting my gaze, he paused and put his phone in his pocket. I saw that small kite fluttering, and back in its original place. "What do you mean?" For the first time since our reunion, I felt angry towards Marvin. "I like it, you threw it away, and I picked it up. What's the problem?" Marvin had an expressionless face. "Marvin, are you crazy too?" "Yeah." He admitted it so readily that my emotions, which were about to flare up, stopped abruptly. I could only take a deep breath and reach out my hand to him. "Give it back to me." "No, give it back to me." If he wouldn't give it back, I would grab it myself. But Marvin's height was really unfair. As long as he raised his arm, I couldn't reach it even if I jumped. I gritted my teeth and retracted my hand. "Fine." The next second, Marvin suddenly pulled me into his arms. A sour feeling welled up in my eyes instantly. I tried my best to open my eyes wide and asked him again in a hoarse voice, "What exactly do you mean?" Marvin didn't say anything. He just held me a little tighter and followed my arm with his hand. His thumb and index finger pinched the ring on my ring finger. "Who gave you this ring?" I choked up and bit my lower lip tightly. "Why didn't you get married? Why were you waiting for me? Why did you forgive me?" He kept asking why. But how could I know the reasons? I didn't know where Marvin was going, so I could only keep waiting here. I hoped that if he suddenly turned back one day, he could see me at the first glance. I was so stupid. When I was still young and naive, I foolishly opened the door of my heart and let Marvin in. The door was too narrow, and Marvin was too big. Once he moved in, he couldn't get out. Later, he chose to break the door by force and finally left, but my heart was already in tatters, and there was no way to let anyone else in. I could only guard this house full of holes and ruins, like a homeless vagrant. Marvin once said he wanted to wander. In the end, it turned out that the one who was truly wandering was myself. The storage room at home was opened again. Those things that had been put away and were meant to never see the light of day were taken out one by their real owner and placed in the right positions. Finally, Marvin took out a box and opened it. Inside, there was a men's ring lying quietly. That was a gift I hadn't had the chance to give him. I had planned it all out. I would propose half a year after graduation and get married a year later. By then, my income should have been relatively stable, and we could consider buying a house. Neither Marvin nor I had a real home. How should I put it? Although stray cats are free, they still need a place to shelter from the wind and rain. But later, all the plans were disrupted. We broke up before I had the chance to propose. Marvin said that he saw the ring on my hand the first time he met me again. At that time, he thought I was already married. Sorry. He knelt in front of me and apologized sincerely. I bit him, pulled his hair, and punched and kicked him. Unfortunately, after working as a white-collar worker for a few years, my physical strength had seriously declined. Marvin only suffered some minor skin injuries at most, while I lost my footing and fell to the ground directly. Marvin was quick to react and reached out to catch me, becoming my human cushion. I started crying while biting his shoulder. Marvin sighed and patiently soothed my back one by one. "You've always been like this. You never ask me if I want something or not. As long as you think it's good for me, you make decisions on your own." Just like when he bought me gifts, he never asked if I wanted them or liked them, he just bought them directly. So when he thought it would be better for us to break up, he didn't ask if I was willing to break up either. "This habit of yours is really bad. Okay, from now on, you'll be in charge of the money. You have so many friends, even if you don't have a penny left on you. If you want to leave, you'll always find a way." Marvin held me and was silent for a long time. I almost thought he was acquiescing again when I heard him say, "I can't leave anymore. I tried once and found that I couldn't leave, so I came back. I won't believe your words anymore." I embarrassedly wiped all my tears and snot on Marvin. "I didn't believe your feelings for me before either." "It's a draw, 1-1. Marvin had already put on the ring for himself. He was thinner than before the breakup, so the men's ring was a bit big on him. But it didn't matter, I could fatten him up again. Actually, Marvin and I shouldn't have made up so easily. But life is only 100 years or so, and we're almost a third of the way through. We've been apart for too long. Even if we're together every day from now on, there are only a few decades left, so I don't want to waste a single minute." On the day we made up, I had a good sleep. When I woke up, I found a pendant on my phone. It was a roll of kite string. I squinted my eyes and yawned. The body behind me was tough and elastic. The arm around my waist exerted a little more force, pulling me deeper into his arms. "What time is it?" Marvin's voice was hoarse, obviously not having slept enough. I turned over and pressed myself against him, patting his waist soothingly. "It's still early. Go back to sleep for a while. From then on, I had a good sleep every night." Marvin's side story. Marvin is good looking. When he was in kindergarten, some girls even fought over being his deskmate. But although he had many friends coming and going around him, and quite a few female friends too, he didn't seem to be close to any of the girls. Except for Karen. Karen is Marvin's childhood sweetheart, his neighbor, his bottom line and principal, his weakness and his armor. He would silently classify and rank everyone. Karen, wearing a crown, sat at the top of all his classifications. He had lived a hard life for many years, but he actually didn't feel bitter at all. During the years he worked in the bar, almost every night, there were people holding their phones, wanting to have a harmless flirtation with him, but he was busy making money and buying things for Karen. How could he have the time to chat with those people? People around him all knew that he had a girlfriend studying in a prestigious university because the screen and chat background of Marvin's phone were photos of him and Karen. Some people, under the guise of caring about him, subtly reminded Marvin, fearing that after all his hard work, he would end up raising an ungrateful person. Marvin's response was to punch that person and knock out one of his teeth. He was like a wolf dog wearing a collar, with the rope loosely in Karen's hands. When she loosened it a bit, he would curiously run a little further. When she pulled it tighter, he would obediently stick by her leg and not go anywhere. In his junior year of college, Karen represented the school in a hosting competition. Marvin secretly took a leave of absence, wanting to give Karen a surprise. Karen was wearing the light yellow dress he bought for her and was shining brightly on the stage. At that moment, for no apparent reason, Marvin suddenly felt inferior. She was on the stage, and he was in the audience. Although they were only tens of meters apart, it felt as if there was a galaxy between them. When Karen graduated from her senior year of college, she had a falling out with her family. Marvin borrowed money from all his friends around him to gather the betrothal gift that Karen's parents wanted. They bought out their kinship at the cost of having less than 1,000 yuan between the two of them, so they could only rent a very shabby house. Karen was amazing. She went to the market and bought some second-hand items. Little by little, she tidied up the house to make it livable. Marvin felt sorry for her having to endure such hardships and just wanted to swear to work harder to earn more money and let Karen live a better life. Just then, he met that man, the man who had once stood side by side with Karen on the stage. Shining together, that person had an excellent family background, elegant temperament, and extraordinary conversation, which were worlds apart from Marvin. He said that if Karen stayed with Marvin, she could only live in a rented room that cost 300 yuan a month and eat boxed lunches that cost 5 yuan each. But if she were with him, Karen would have a car, a house, and a generous salary, Karen had endured so much hardship over the years. He hoped that Marvin could be sensible and take the initiative to step back. At that time, Marvin didn't have any particular thoughts. He just went home in silence and found that the door lock was broken again. This door lock often broke, and he had to discuss with the landlord to change it to a new one. As he was thinking about this, he took off his t-shirt irritably, wanting to take a shower. There were footsteps behind him. It didn't sound like Karen's rhythm. So Marvin just turned his head indifferently. It was a girl from the bar who had been chasing him for a long time. She mustered up the courage to stand in front of Marvin and took off her clothes one by one, trying to recommend herself. Marvin had encountered such things many times. These days, women seem to be very proactive when they're interested in a man. When Marvin lived in the bar dormitory before, one day after work, he found a naked woman lying on his bed, out of love for Karen. Marvin rarely directly attacked people of the same gender as Karen like he did with men. At most, he would just ignore them. But the girl's underwear had been thrown right at his feet. He felt a bit nauseous, wanting to pick it up and throw it away, and then wash his hands. It was at this moment that Karen came back. Marvin's mind went blank for a second. He opened his mouth, wanting to explain, but didn't know how. Then, the words that had been lingering in his mind came to him. You and Karen aren't from the same world. Do you have the heart to let Karen suffer with you and watch her light gradually fade away? Before he could think it through clearly, his mouth spoke before his brain. He said they should break up. Once the words were actually out, his heart, which had been in a state of uncertainty, suddenly found a fulcrum. Marvin thought that he and Karen had depended on each other for 20 years, and it seemed that their fate could only end here. In order to break up cleanly, he didn't take anything. Actually, he shouldn't have taken that kite charm either. But at that time, his mind was in a daze. It had already exhausted all his energy to hold back his soft heart, and he couldn't say another word of refusal. He fled, far away and in a sorry state. After leaving Karen, his life suddenly lost its center. He had nothing to do. When his friends asked him to drink, he would go. When he drank too much, he would sit in the corner with a scowling face, looking as if he didn't want anyone to approach. Later, he thought that this wouldn't do. Karen had a gentle temper and wasn't very career-driven. What if her future in-laws disliked her because of her humble background? Thinking of this, Marvin pulled himself together, quit smoking and drinking, and started focusing on his career. He was really smart and had the ability to make money. The bar he co-owned with his friends was running well. His friend said that he wanted to open a branch and asked Marvin for suggestions on the location. Marvin answered out of reflex. It was only after he had spoken that he realized it was the city where Karen was. He had many opportunities to regret it, but the words of denial got stuck in his throat. Perhaps he had been vaguely hoping, waiting for a reasonable excuse to appear so that he could go back. When the new store opened, Marvin was busy with everything. Actually, he didn't need to do everything himself, but being busier and more tired allowed him to better control the urge to keep tabs on Karen. Unfortunately, it seemed that he had overworked himself. Soon after the new store opened, as soon as he relaxed a bit, he had a car accident. The first thing he did when he woke up was to look at his phone. He had a good memory, and there were no names in his contact list. Only in the emergency contact section was Karen's name written, with her phone number below. He saw the call records. He didn't know what he was thinking. He hoped to see Karen, yet at the same time, he thought it was better not to see her, until they met again in the corridor. All the noise around him faded away. The first thing Marvin saw was the ring on Karen's ring finger. She was married. That was good. It was strange. The ring was so small, yet how could he have seen it at a glance? Then Marvin thought, wasn't her fiancé supposed to be a rich second generation? Why was he so stingy that he couldn't even afford a diamond ring? When he heard Karen say that she wanted to pay him back the money, Marvin's expression became even colder. Was she trying to draw a clear line with him now? Why, he had been willing to spend money on her. Why was she paying him back? That night, he tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. He was afraid that as soon as he opened his eyes, he would see Karen coming to him with the card in her hand. So he left the hospital without delay and went home. He had bought this house not long ago. When he bought it, he didn't pay attention. It was only after the formalities were completed that he realized that this house was actually to Karen's taste, not his. After his body recovered, he went to the bar for a while. When he was leaving, someone knocked his phone out of his hand. And Marvin reacted strongly. Actually, he didn't care about the phone. The main thing was that the kite charm had fallen off once before, and he had a psychological shadow. It took him almost 3 days to find it. After that, he replaced the rope with an iron chain, which was sturdy and firm. Perhaps because there had been too many things going on recently and his emotions were all over the place. Marvin fell ill as soon as he got home. Maybe he rarely got sick usually. So it was difficult for him to recover. He had a fever and was in a daze at home, not knowing how many days he had slept. When he finally felt a bit more awake and got up to pour himself a glass of water, he saw a woman in his house. At the door, Karen was standing. This familiar scene made Marvin's heart clench almost instantly. But because he wasn't fully conscious due to his illness, Marvin thought that since he had been misunderstood once before, it didn't matter if there was another misunderstanding now. However, after Karen left, Marvin, along with the pot the woman had used, threw all the things that annoyed him out of the house. Not hitting women was his principle, but when it came to men, he didn't care. I had imagined many scenarios of my reunion with Marvin, and not to make things convenient for those with ulterior motives. Learning from this experience, he changed to a password lock this time. Except for him, no one knew the password. Oh, Karen should probably know it too, since all his passwords since childhood were related to her birthday. In the quiet night, Marvin held the kite and the spool of string in his hand and then took out his properties to calculate. There was a number in his heart, an amount that was enough for Karen to live comfortably for the